The next time you're wondering how much that flashy new vehicle that caught your eye is going to cost you, know that the answer is pretty simple. It's $60,000. Okay, it might not actually be 60 grand, but more and more these days, it seems like that's the magic number for all kinds of vehicles. Take the Toyota Crown Signia that I honestly and truly believe is the best new vehicle on the mainstream market. You better believe you're going to spend 60 grand to get one. And how about a hot hatch like the Volkswagen Golf R or the Toyota GR Corolla? It doesn't take much to option either of them to that same figure, and you could spend about the same and get a decently equipped half-ton truck, and you don't even need incentives to get it. And that brings us to this stunningly styled Hyundai Palisade that looks great. It's got all kinds of amenities, and lo and behold, it's going to cost you about 60 grand or more to get a version like this one I have here with me. And now it's time to find out whether it's worth that kind of cash. Don't forget to share our channel and subscribe so you can catch some of this and maybe even a little of that. Look, I am not here to tell you how to spend your money, but when I look at the way the market is headed, I'm more than a little bit concerned, and a lot of it comes down to families and affordability. This is a big problem, and it obviously stands out with a family-sized SUV like this one because they're all getting so expensive. And I'm telling you right now, I know lots of people with kids who would tell you squeezing something like this into their monthly budget just isn't realistic. And then the other side of it is the knock-on effect, because high prices on the new market means a few years from now, this thing is going to be more expensive than a used SUV was just a few years ago, which means those same families aren't going to be any better off when this thing is a few years old. So that is my concern. I'm not trying to put the pressure on Hyundai specifically, but when I look at the market as a whole, this trend is absolutely everywhere. But realistically, when you look at this Palisade, it is a great example of the problem, because when this thing first went on sale almost 6 years ago, it was something like 40 grand before tax, and then it was a little bit more for the all-wheel drive version. Now that front-wheel drive version, it is gone, and Hyundai has skipped the kind of conventional base version, and Hyundai Canada said it wasn't selling that many anyways. But I still have a problem with that, because I know lots of people who would say affordability is top of the list, and surely something in the $40,000 to $45,000 range would be very appealing, especially compared to the point of entry for this redesigned version of the Palisade. And look, we can't discount the effect that inflation has on vehicle prices. And the other thing is, of course, automakers charge more for new vehicles because they add stuff. They also want to make their profit, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this 2026 Palisade, it starts at nearly $56,000 before tax. And then there's a rugged-looking XRT Pro version that's, you guessed it, about 60 grand. If you want this ultimate calligraphy, you're going to pay nearly $65,000. And then there's a hybrid version that's coming. The ultimate calligraphy version of that is almost 68 grand before tax. That is just so much money. Now, I should also point out that hybrid is a late arrival. It's not here as of this recording, so I haven't driven it. It's on its way. That's going to be at the top of the lineup. And then there's going to be a luxury hybrid that slots in below this V6 powered ultimate calligraphy that I'm driving. So there's one more in the lineup versus last year. There were only 3 trims to choose between. The other thing I want to point out is, yeah, there are lots of other SUVs this size that are priced rather similarly, but that doesn't make any of them affordable. The other thing to consider is that there are quite a few that are cheaper, especially to start, and one of them is the Toyota Grand Highlander that is an AutoTrader award winner for a very good reason. That thing is a few grand less than this to start, so it really is something that sticks out in my mind as a big problem for the Palisade. Anyway, this ultimate calligraphy with the V6, it has just about everything you could want in an SUV this side, and probably even some stuff you don't. But let's start with the basics. The stuff that's included in every single trim: heated steering wheel, heated front and second row seats, twin 12.3-inch displays, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, this wireless charger, dual zone automatic climate control. It's a pretty extensive list. There's also an entire advanced safety suite, which I love to see. Now, of course, there is some stuff that's saved for the top of the lineup. So Hyundai's highway driving assist system, there's a more advanced version that's in this one that I'm driving, as well as that blind view monitoring system that gives you a live look at either side of the vehicle when you have the signal activated. But blind spot monitoring, lane departure warning and keeping assistance, forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, the list goes on, and it is all standard across the lineup. Now, getting back to the creature comforts, every trim but the cheapest one also has ventilated front seats, and then if you spring for this ultimate calligraphy, you get ventilated second row seats and heated third row seats, and then more basically, this thing has been entirely overhauled, but it doesn't just look different, it's more family friendly. There's all kinds of storage in here, whether it's this cubby down here on the back of this console. There's one down here on the front as well. There are cup holders in the doors, all kinds of storage. And even this layout, these twin screens, they're not new. Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, they've been using them for years, but I love how low they are on the dash because they are not distracting at all when you are behind the wheel, but they're also just barely a glance away. So if you do need to look down, I don't know, at navigation directions, you can do that, but you don't have to take your eyes off the road for too long, and yet they are just out of your periphery so you can pay attention to what's going on out in front of the vehicle. On that note, I will say outward visibility, very good except for these A-pillars. They're just a little chunky, so if you're making a turn, you might run into an issue where a pedestrian might kind of disappear behind there. You never like to see that, but the windows all around are very big. The other thing is, with this top trim, you do get some more extras like this camera-based rear view mirror. So if you have people or stuff in the back, you can still see what's going on behind the vehicle. Something else that's kind of cool, this trim also has integrated dash cams, front and back. It's a very unique feature. It's something I like to see because there's nothing worse than throwing an aftermarket one in there. Yeah, I know it's good. It's a whole thing to do with safety and having that extra set of eyes in case something goes wrong, but having that wire dangle down, it just never looks right. So having these ones integrated into the vehicle is great. It records right into the head unit and it will save days of information. So that is very cool. Now, in terms of space in here, yeah, it feels big in the front seats. The same goes with the second row. And as easy it is to tuck that row out of the way if you need to climb in the very back, I will say, not all that spacious, best saved for young kids. And I only really point that out because if you have a growing family, if you have teenagers, they aren't going to be too thrilled to be stuck back there for too long. So keep that in mind. This thing is big, but not that big. This isn't a minivan. This also isn't a Chevrolet Tahoe or Suburban. So just keep that in mind if you are shopping for a crossover this size, and there are more spacious third rows on the market. Now, like I said earlier, this one is powered by a V6. It's a 3.5 liter instead of the 3.8 liter that used to sit under the hood of the Palisade. It makes a little less output than before, 287 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque versus 291 and 262 before. Negligible. 8-speed automatic, just like before, all-wheel drive standard in Canada. The other thing, not all that efficient. 11.1 liters per 100 kilometers combined is the official rating. That's exactly the same as it was before. It's a number that seems achievable. I will say, this one I'm driving, it's still well within the break-in period, and I have struggled just a little bit to hit that number. I had it down to exactly 11.1 liters per 100 earlier this week. It's crept up closer to 12, but I'm willing to give it a pass because the Palisade before, it was very easy to hit or beat that official number. There's no reason to think that this thing won't be able to do the same once it's past the break-in period. But if ever there was a reason to get the hybrid, this number would be it, 8.1. That's the combined consumption rating for the hybrid version that's on its way. So if fuel consumption is a concern of yours, you might want to wait for that thing. Anyways, aside from that, I will say this new Palisade, it's pretty smooth out on the open road. The biggest highlight for me is the steering, and I like hydraulic steering just like any other car enthusiast, but I also see a place for these modern electric systems, and this is a really good example. Having that motor mounted to the steering column, it is so silky smooth and it's progressive, so you get a little bit more weight and resistance as the speedometer rises. That is great. Suspension, fairly smooth and comfortable, although I do have some issues. A big one, body roll. It's just a little bit sloppy. And then the other thing is pressure cracks and potholes. You do feel them a little more than I would like. Now, that could be these 21-inch wheels that this thing is riding on, the low profile tires. That is a difficult thing for a lot of vehicles to overcome, but I just don't love it. And that's why I would recommend checking out something like the Toyota Grand Highlander that just has a different and arguably better ride quality. But if aesthetics matter to you, I gotta give it to this Palisade because this thing looks great. Hyundai is huge on these seismic styling overhauls, and this 2026 Palisade is no exception. It looks nothing like the one that came before it, not to mention anything else in the Hyundai lineup. I personally really like it. All the lines, the lights, even the way these pillars in the back are finished, it is perfect. Honestly, if there's been a better looking mainstream crossover in the last decade, I can't name it. Yes, it is that good. Now, these back doors, they are huge, but they also open so wide, and that means whether you're climbing in or you're helping little ones with car seats, it should be nice and simple. There's also a good amount of cargo room in here, even with the third row upright, which isn't always the case with crossovers this size. And then specifically with this top trim, you get all these buttons just inside of here, and they mean you can raise and lower the seats inside, whether you want to do just the left side, the right side, the third row, the second row, or all of them. It works at the press of a button. That is great, and it definitely helps with family friendliness, even if it doesn't help when it comes to affordability. To recap, I like the stunning new style of the Hyundai Palisade, how useful and well packaged the interior is, and that there's a hybrid version on the way. I don't like how expensive it is, the way rough surfaces make their way inside, or how much body roll there is. Just to reiterate, it isn't up to Hyundai or any other automaker to sell affordable vehicles, but even in that context, this new Palisade is almost shockingly expensive. And if any of this sounds familiar, well, it wasn't too long ago that I said something similar about the redesigned Honda Passport that's priced right around, you guessed it, 60 grand before tax. Anyway, if you're in the market for a three-row, I would also recommend you check out the Toyota Grand Highlander, which has similar space inside, but a very different on-road feel. And yes, it's also offered with a hybrid powertrain. Now, if you decide to go with the Palisade, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just be sure to budget accordingly.